In 2007, inside a cavern so silent you could hear your own heartbeat echo back, a team of archaeologists stumbled upon a fragment that shouldn't have existed. It was buried in the depths of a shadowy cave in the mountainous north of Luzon, Filipino remote. It barely made the maps. At first glance, it looked like nothing. A tiny sliver of bone, small enough to vanish in your palm. But this one fragment was about to destroy everything we thought we knew about the history of Southeast Asia. The bone in question? A partial right metatarsal, basically a foot bone, just 2.44 inches long, and yet it set off a seismic shift in anthropology. It had been found in Araro Cave, tucked inside Cagayan Valley, by a joint expedition from the University of Makiling and France's National Museum of Human Origins. At the time, no one blinked twice. Just another dusty artifact. But once they subjected it to uranium series dating, jaws dropped, 67,000 years old. That date didn't just rattle nerves it shattered timelines. Before this, the so-called oldest human in the Philippines was dubbed the Palawan Man, clocking in at around 47,000 years old. But this new discovery pushed things back a staggering 20,000 years earlier, long before we believed anyone could even reach these islands. That raised a very awkward question. According to previous research and those neat little textbook diagrams, early humans only reached the Philippines by walking over land bridges that emerged during the Ice Age, when sea levels were low. But 67,000 years ago, those bridges weren't there. In fact, the islands were surrounded by vast oceans. So how on earth did the Araro people get there? Who were they? And why would they set out across treacherous seas when most of humankind was still busy banging rocks together in the forest? That single tiny bone wasn't just an archaeological curiosity. It was the first puzzle piece in a story that would flip the script on everything we thought we knew about early humans in Southeast Asia. And the more we dig into this mystery, the more we uncover secrets that somehow never made it into any classroom lecture or schoolbook chart. Meat, yet there wasn't a single tool in sight. No blades, no chisels, not even a suspiciously sharp rock with a chip in it. For the researchers, it was a massive headache. How had these ancient islanders managed to butcher animals without any visible tools? One possibility is that their tools were made from organic materials: bamboo, bark, hardwood, animal teeth, even seashell stuff that doesn't survive 67,000 years of cave humidity. Another theory: maybe the Araro people didn't make tools at all. Maybe they just used what nature threw at them: broken volcanic glass, jagged limestone, or whatever happened to be lying around with a lethal edge. Whichever theory is true, one thing's obvious. These people were no amateurs. They hunted, they killed, and they knew exactly how to do it. Even without fancy weaponry, they left behind undeniable proof animal bones carved up with the precision of someone who definitely wasn't nibbling. Yet their lack of surviving tools throws a wrench into our usual assumptions about intelligence. We tend to measure early human advancement by what they left behind: arrowheads, blades, little carved figurines. But the Araro people challenged that idea completely. They lived smart, they lived skilled, but without leaving a single stone souvenir. Part 4. Could the Araro people be the ancestors of today's Agan tribe? When scientists examined that ancient footbone from Araro, they noticed something eerily familiar. Professor Elias Montares, head of the excavation, was the first to raise his eyebrows. The bone structure bore a curious resemblance to traits found in the Agan people, an indigenous ethnic group still living today in the remote uplands of the Philippines. Short stature, deep brown skin, tightly curled hair, and a delicate skeletal frame. Features once dismissed as anomalies now looked like echoes of a prehistoric past. So the question emerged: could the Agan be direct descendants of the Araro cave, dwellers, survivors of a migration that happened 67,000 years ago? If true, it would mean that their lineage has persisted for more than 600 centuries, an unbroken bloodline stretching across eras, a genetic highway paved long before nations or maps existed. Of course, To prove that, scientists need more than bone comparisons. They need hard genetic evidence. But even without DNA, this opens a new way of seeing. Maybe these groups aren't just minorities clinging to old ways. Maybe they're living fossils moving, breathing links to a human story that predates civilization itself. The Araro people might not be gone. They could still be walking among us through the rain-drenched forests, across rice fields, in the footsteps of the Agan who never left the land their ancestors first stepped on. Part 5. Homo Sapiens, New Kind of Human. In 2010, after 3 years of analyzing every fossil scrap from Araro Cave, Professor Montares and his team made a bombshell announcement. This wasn't just another early human, it was an entirely new species. They named it Homo Sapiens, after Luzon's local term for chieftain, a nod to the island where it was found. The scientific community erupted in debate. This creature didn't match Homo sapiens, but it wasn't Homo erectus either. It was weird, in the best way. Standing around 1 to 1.2 meters tall, Homo Sapiens was pint-sized and lean-likely, an evolutionary adaptation to Luzon's dense forests and rugged mountains. But their physical traits were a mix-and-match time machine. Their fingers and toes curved like they'd spent their lives swinging from trees. Think early African primates, not something you'd expect on an island in Southeast Asia. Their teeth were just as strange. Some had multiple roots like Homo erectus, others were sleek like ours. It was a prehistoric mashup of ancient and modern. All these features put Homo Sapiens on its own branch of the human family tree, mysterious offshoot that no one saw coming. Japanese anthropologist Dr. Yuto Kameda called the find a golden glitch in our understanding of Southeast Asian prehistory. Yet skeptics raised eyebrows. Was this really a separate species? Or just an island version of Homo erectus that evolved quirks over time? That debate still rages. But no one can deny. Once upon a time, in the misty forests of Luzon, a small, strange, and forgotten kind of human lived, and vanished without a trace. Nearly 70,000 years of silence. And now, at last, the world has started to pay attention. Part 6. The Mariana Migration, the birth of a sea empire. Not long after Homo Sapiens disappeared into the fog of Luzon's ancient forests, something astonishing happened. New groups began arriving, not scattered bands of wanderers, but structured communities with traditions, tools, and perhaps most importantly, ships. These weren't just settlers, they were the Marianas, early masters of the sea. They're believed to be the forerunners of hundreds of cultural groups across Southeast Asia, the Pacific, and even parts of Africa. Their trail began in southern China, snaked through Taiwan, and crossed turbulent waters into the Philippine archipelago roughly 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. And unlike others before them, they didn't arrive by accident or luck. They came to build. They brought seeds, woven baskets, clay pots, tamed animals, and spoken language. Everything a civilization needs to put down roots. Historian Paul Del Rosa suggests the Marianas weren't explorers. They were architects. The Philippines served as one of their earliest major stopovers before they fanned out into Indonesia, Polynesia, Micronesia, and even as far as Madagascar off Africa's coast. But what truly set the Marianas apart wasn't the distance they traveled, it was how they traveled. Long before Viking longships or Greek triremes, these people were already charting thousands of kilometers of open water in wooden canoes, guided by nothing but wind, stars, and the pull of the tides. Part 7. Carriers of Culture and Voice. When the Marianas reached the shores of what is now the Philippines, they brought far more than gear and grain. They carried something far more powerful culture. A quiet, yet unbreakable culture that flowed across islands like wind across water. From Luzon to Mindanao, from the small islands of the Visayas to Samoa to Hawaii and Madagascar, you can still trace their echoes. Tattoo patterns etched onto skin knot as fashion, but as living stories, marking battles, ancestors, or coming of age. Dances around flickering fires, rhythmic bamboo instruments, ancient lullabies whispered from one generation to the next. How could a funeral rite in the northern Batanes resemble one 8,000 kilometers away in Polynesia? How can a chant heard in a village in Muro sound eerily similar to one sung in Madagascar? The answer lies in a single wave, the Austronesian cultural tide that swept across the ocean like a living myth. And through all this, language remained their strongest current. The Philippines today is home to over 87 living Austronesian languages, making it one of the richest linguistic regions on the planet. Whether you speak Batanon, Cebuano, Iligan, or Tagalog, each phrase you speak still pulses with the rhythm of those early sea journeys of civilization that needed no borders or flags, just boats, wind, and memory. Today, that memory still dances between screens and smartphones as modern Filipinos keep the voices of their ancestors alive in Wi-Fi connected villages and crowded cities alike. Part 8. A melting pot in motion. If there's one place on Earth that truly defines the chaos and beauty of human migration, it's the Philippines. For tens of thousands of years, wave after wave of humanity arrived and left more than just footprints in the mud. They left blueprints in our blood. According to data from the Genatlas Human Origins Project, around 53% of Filipino genetic ancestry traces back to Southeast Asia and Oceania, testament to early voyagers and island settlers who first shaped the archipelago. Another 36% comes from East Asia particularly, Chinese lineage woven into the islands over centuries of trade, migration, and marriage. But there's more buried in the genes. Scientists have found 5% European ancestry, mostly Spanish-etched into the Filipino genome after over 3 centuries of colonization and conquest. There's also 3% from South Asia, pointing toward ancient Indian influence from as early as the 5th century. Century CE, through ancient maritime trade routes crisscrossing Southeast Asia. Even more surprisingly, around 2% of Native American ancestry has been detected, possibly a relic from the time when Manila served as a bustling port in the galleon trade, linking Mexico to Asia for over 2 centuries. Every ship that docked, every merchant that bartered, every empire that touched these shores left something behind, not just goods but genetics. Every fleeting romance, every union between a Persian sailor and a girl from Mindoro, a Spanish priest and a Tagalog convert, a Chinese craftsman and a local weave-reach thread, was woven into the living tapestry of modern Filipino DNA. You can't see these connections with your eyes, but they're written in every cell, pulsing beneath every heartbeat, forming the invisible spine of a people shaped by the world's longest conversation. Part 9. What makes a Filipino? So who exactly are the Filipino people? You won't find the answer in just one flag, one ancestor, or one tradition. Filipino identity is a living archive born from tens of thousands of years of adaptation, collision, and reinvention. From unknown hunters who crept through ancient jungles 67,000 years ago, to wave-riding settlers who built floating civilizations across the sea. Their blood holds traces of Homo Luzonensis, that mysterious human species with feet too small for their legacy, who vanished into Luzon's forests long before wheels or words. Their courage flows from the Araro voyagers, who sailed treacherous oceans with no compass and no guarantee of land ahead. In their bodies runs the strength of the Mariana migrants, who brought with them not just crops and tools, but belief systems and languages that stretched across thousands of islands. Embedded in their genes are the legacies of Chinese merchants, Arab navigators, Spanish rulers, Indian travelers, and even hints of Native American contact layered together like sediment in the rock of human evolution. Today, the voices of their ancestors speak through over 87 living Mariana languages. Their stories are inked onto skin through tattoo rituals that echo from Luzon to Polynesia. Their memories are kept in songs and dances, in whispered lullabies that outlived empires and survived the centuries. Filipinos are not just history's leftovers. They're crossroads where every culture, every fleet, every forgotten tribe left a footprint. They are living maps, inscribed with migrations, myths, and shared dreams of those who once floated through the South China Sea in nothing but carved wood and courage. They show us that DNA isn't just science, it's identity. It proves we can be mixtures of everything and still create a story that belongs to everyone. So who are the Filipino people? They are the children of wave riders, of continent linkers, of story makers. And they didn't just leave their mark in the dirt. They carved it into the collective memory of the human race. So, next time you look in the mirror, what do you really see? Maybe you notice the sun-baked skin, dark hair, or strong gaze. But beneath that, you carry a time-stretched saga from the caves of ancient Luzon to the firelit shores of Austronesian islands. Inside, you are hunters, traders, survivors, visionaries. You are not just Filipino. You are the current itself a pulse that crosses oceans and epochs to arrive here. And if that stirs something in you, pride, wonder, or even 1,000 new questions, then hit that subscribe button, because this journey is just beginning. Your ancestors never stopped moving. So why should you? Subscribe now, and let's keep tracing the story of you.